What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for coming back to another video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the Scream team. Stephanie from I'll Buy the Popcorn is back once again to be in another video here with me. This time I had to check out a Disney Channel original movie. I promise, guys, I did not intend to do this many of them back to back for this Halloween season, but I definitely have some horror movies that are not Disney based coming very, very soon. The next review I do after this one, as far as Halloween horror related stuff, will be a horror film, so you guys can rest assured if you're tired of the Disney Channel original movies, there's more horror coming very soon. But right now we're going to talk about a Disney Channel movie that I remember from my childhood and I had Stephanie check out for the very first time, so we're going to hear her thoughts in just a little bit. Big thanks to her for being in this video. Again, you guys can find the link to her channel down below in the description box. Go give her some love, and again, we're going to hear from her in a second. So let's talk a little bit about the Scream team. So this film focuses on a brother and sister named Ian and Claire, played by Mark Rendall and Kat Dennings, and yeah, their grandfather just passed away, and the other main cast member of this film is their dad, and their dad is kind of just this oblivious father who's kind of just there to kind of, he has a story arc in the film, but for the most of the film, it just feels like he's there to kind of like scold them. And you know, there's an underlying thing going on with their dad, and we'll get into that in just one second. But yeah, their grandfather has just passed away, and at the beginning of the film, we're introduced to the fact that they're very, very close to their grandfather. Their grandfather was one of those people who just makes very wacky inventions by himself, and they kind of helped him with that, and they were able to bond with him on that. And yeah, not too long into the film, they're introduced to the fact that their grandfather's ghost is still there at the house and has not moved on to the next life, and the reason for that is because he has something that he needs to kind of make peace with in the real world. And not too long into it, they end up meeting a group of other ghosts who actually run essentially some sort of office, a secret office of ghosts, where when dead people arrive, they're kind of navigated through an office building, a ghost office building that slowly gets them through the paperwork to get on to the afterlife. So it's a very silly, over-the-top premise in this very Disney cheesy way. This is a Disney Channel original movie, so you have to expect cheesy special effects and cheesy acting and a cheesy premise. But what I will say is that compared to a lot of the other ones that I've revisited recently, going back and rewatching this one, first of all, I was definitely surprised to see that the film was an hour and 40 something minutes. I think it was just an hour and 40 minutes if I'm not mistaken. That shocked me because majority of these that I've been revisiting lately have easily been under an hour and 30, with most of them coming in at about an hour and 13 to 15 minutes. So I wasn't really expecting this movie to be an hour and 40 when I started it, but I was definitely open to seeing what a longer Disney Channel original movie would be like today, because I hadn't seen this movie in a long, long time. I remember the basic gist, I remembered a lot of the visuals and the characters, but I didn't remember too much of the story, because this was one of those that I enjoyed as a kid, but I wasn't absolutely crazy with this film as I was with something like Halloween Town. What I will say is that since this movie came out after a lot of the cheesier Disney Channel original movies, this one has better cinematography, it has better performances, and a lot of the digital effects are a little bit better than some of the older Disney Channel original movies. Now, without a doubt, the digital effects in this film are definitely atrocious compared to films today, even compared to TV shows and TV movies today. Yeah, it's just super dated as far as the special effects go, but there is a pretty good use of practical effects in this film and costumes and set design that I thought was well done, and I enjoyed that element of the film. And yeah, not too long into the whole story and learning about the ghost and all this, we find out that there's this guy named Zachariah Cole, I believe what his name is, and he's essentially this legend of the town that they're in, and he's this guy that was said to have murdered his wife by burning down their house. He was supposed to have been like this sorcerer who could control fire, and yeah, they just ended up burning him at the stake, and now his soul kind of roams around this town, taking the souls of people who don't move on to the next life and kind of consuming their life energy and kind of just taking over this town and kind of doing what he wants to do. But he himself is also a ghost who has something to kind of make peace with in the real world, which is why he himself has not moved on. And I'll go ahead and jump straight into the spoilers. We learn at the end of the film that he actually was wrongfully accused, and he was actually a guy who was just kind of a scientist, an inventor, and found a way to use natural gases in order to use like his torches and his lights and all that stuff in his house. And via a freak accident, he ended up burning down the house that his wife was in, which got her killed. And of course, back in those days, people kind of looked at him like a wizard, like a sorcerer. So they ended up wrongfully accusing him and burning him at the stake, which ended up actually giving him fire powers as a ghost, which is ridiculous and silly. But yeah, that's essentially, he was on this revenge path, and it's one of those movies where they kind of have to reach out to the villain and kind of, you know, bring him to peace and make him realize that what he's doing is wrong and that he needs to move on to the afterlife and let all of those souls free. And that's essentially what ends up happening in this film. So now that I've told you everything that essentially you need to know about this film, I enjoyed the practical effects of this film and the costume design. It's cheesy, it's silly, it knows what it is, but I feel like the performances and the overall characters in this film all fit the tone of the film. Some of the characters feel a little bit annoying and maybe a little bit out of place, but for the most part, I feel like this is a film that knows what it is. The characters, the costume design, and even the, you know, very dated CG all fits within the tone that this film sets up. And that's something that I could definitely praise about the film, is even though there are dated elements, it feels like it's all kind of within the same tone, so it never feels like something stands out as a very dated element more so than anything else. Now, before I continue my thoughts on this movie, let's go ahead and hear what Stephanie from I'll Buy the Popcorn has to say about this.
Anthony, thank you for having me back on your channel. I had actually never heard of this movie prior to it being, you know, my homework assignment. Quite honestly, when I saw the poster, I was just like, oh my god, what did I do to you, Anthony? Why would you give me this movie? So I was really like about it at first. I'm sure Anthony by now has told you the premise of the movie, and we're following these two siblings. One is played by Dennings, which I absolutely adore her. She's great. I feel like she's kind of like the girl version of Ryan Reynolds. We pretty much get the same thing out of her really throughout all her performances. And we're following Claire and Ian, these two siblings who are trying to help the grandfather and kind of help him cross over. He's kind of like lingering around because, you know, ghosts always have unfinished business. Well, not always. So I'm not gonna lie, I quite enjoyed the movie. I really did. Like midway through the movie, I'm just like, I'm digging this. I really am. I feel like if you're a fan of like the OG like Disney movies, you know, like Halloween Town, Twitches, feel like you may enjoy this one as well. It kind of runs within the same type of like corny type of early 2000 movies, but we are dealing with ghosts and like ghost hunting, and all of things are really ridiculous. I mean, don't get me wrong, again, it's early 2000s, you guys, so like what do you expect? And of course the special effects were lame, but that's what they had back in the day. And I mean, there's certain cool aspects to it, I guess, like the inner child in me kind of like when there was like the little spirit ghost floating at the beginning of the movie, but then when we kind of got further along and we saw them kind of floating up on top in the in the sky, that one was pretty corny as well. I kind of laughed in that portion. So it does have a lot of like laughable moments, but you know, again, cheesy early 2000s, but I feel like it's a great movie to watch. And if you're a fan of Sons of Anarchy, Kim Coates, who plays Tig, is actually the villain in this movie, a very young Kim Coates. He doesn't really have too many lines, you know, he kind of is just like this menacing head. Towards the beginning of the movie, you know, he's throwing these really bad fireballs. That's kind of where the special effects are like not the greatest, but you know, just look past it. I'm actually surprised that, you know, Freeform doesn't incorporate this movie into its 31 Nights of Halloween. I wouldn't mind watching this, you know, yearly. Now I love the Freeform 31 Nights of Halloween, you know, lineup as much as the next person, but let's face it, they do repeat the same movies over and over. Sometimes I feel like maybe like once a week, maybe we should incorporate a new movie and kind of like add it within the rotation. And I honestly feel like the Scream Team is a really good movie to incorporate within that rotation. These are all my thoughts on the Scream Team. Overall, I enjoyed it. I think it's going to be a movie that I'm going to be again incorporating within my new October lineup within the spooky season, because that's pretty much all I watch are like Disney Channel kind of movies, because I am not about that scary movie life. Once again, thank you so much for having me on here. I can't wait to come back and talk about whatever else. But if it is another Halloween movie, please don't give me a scary movie. You can give me, well, you know what, you can maybe give me like something like, no, don't give me a scary movie. Please don't. Before I send you back off to your host, once again, my name is Stephanie. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say, and take it away.
A big thanks to you, Stephanie, for being in this video. Definitely appreciated you being in this video, being down to watch this movie, and loved hearing your thoughts on this. I love knowing that you kind of went into it like, oh God, what are you got me into? What am I watching? But that at the end of it, you actually found yourself quite enjoying the film. Because yeah, for me, this is one of those movies, similar to a lot of the other Disney Channel movies that I reviewed lately, that kind of just lean into the fun and silly, whimsical side of what Halloween is. You know, the pumpkins, the costumes, the silly stories around this holiday, and not only kind of leaning into the more horror or more scary side of things, you know. And this film, I think, does a pretty good job of having some creepy visuals for a kids movie, though it's not scary in any way, shape, or form. And I found it to just be a fun, good ride that I can go back and revisit, though there were some elements about it that I wasn't crazy about. I'm going to talk about that in just one second, but I loved hearing your thoughts on this movie, Stephanie. So again, a big thanks to you. You guys can find the link to her channel down below. Go give her some love, let her know I sent you. And yeah, let me just wrap up my thoughts on this. I don't have a whole lot more to say about this movie. This is a film that I think for the most part is actually pretty well acted. Majority of the performances are very believable, or at least fit within the tone of the film. The only times that I felt some of the moments of the film were kind of lackluster as far as the performances, it had more to do with the dialogue and the script in general, the screenplay, than it did the actual performances. I feel like there were certain lines of dialogue and certain moments back and forth with certain characters that are just kind of written in a way where I don't really think many actors really could have made it much better. This is a made-for-TV Disney Channel movie, so there is that cheese to it, but I feel like the movie knows what it is. It has fun with it. There were some moments in this film that took me out of it because I just found myself a little bit bored and kind of like there was a redundancy element with the film, and it, you know, not so much. You know, I think the movie knows what it is, and it is a fun watch for the most part, but I felt like it could have been trimmed down just a little bit. It felt like the hour and 40 mark wasn't really necessarily what this film needed to be. I think this movie could have been a very clean like hour and 20, hour and 30. I think there just felt like there was a couple of scenes and a couple of moments that felt a little bit longer and like they were a little bit drawn on, but that's not a huge criticism. At the end of the day, I am reviewing this movie knowing what kind of movie it is, when it came out, and recognizing that this is something that came out when I was a kid, and that this isn't necessarily something for modern viewers. But I think if you were a big fan of cheesy Halloween movies and you like things like what Stephanie said, like when Freeform does their 31 Days of Halloween or their 30 Days of Halloween, whatever it is, and they go through films like Hocus Pocus or Nightmare Before Christmas, this is definitely a movie that could fit in with those. Is it as good as those? In my opinion, no, but I think it's a movie that can fit in with those kinds of movies. It's just fun, silly, knows what it is, has some fun visuals, though it is very cheesy, and at the end of the day has a story about family and kind of like making peace with people while they're still alive. You know, that's really what it comes down to at the end, specifically with the grandfather. I should mention, you know, the whole thing that he wanted to do was kind of make peace with his son and tell his son that he was proud of him. And, you know, I think that, you know, that's something that we can relate to, or, you know, that people can relate to, is the idea of, you know, somebody passing on and maybe you just didn't have the best relationship with them and you weren't able to really fully make peace with them. So yeah, that's really kind of the core of the heart of the story. But yeah, this is a fun, silly ride. I enjoyed going back and revisiting it. I wasn't absolutely crazy about it, but I had fun with it. So again, a big thanks to Stephanie for being in this video. Definitely appreciated hearing your thoughts on this, and I can't wait to do another collab with you. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit that like button down below. It definitely helps the channel out. Comment your thoughts. Have you seen this movie? Have you not seen this movie? Did you enjoy this movie? Do you not enjoy this film? Definitely want to hear what you guys have to say on that. Subscribe if you guys have not already done so, and as usual, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.